Welcome back to SportsCenter. Kevin Negandhi, Sage Steele. Notable moves today. There were a lot of them in the NBA. Marcus Morris heading to the Clippers in a 3-team deal that includes the Knicks and the Wizards. Isaiah Thomas also part of the deal, but Woj says he will be waived by the Clippers. Also, Golden State is sending D'Angelo Russell to Minnesota for Andrew Wiggins and a pair of draft picks. Russell was the number 2 pick in the 2015 draft, and now he'll team up with the guy who was number 1 overall in 2015, Karl Anthony Towns. The Andre Iguodala deal is now complete. He gets his wish. He gets traded out of Memphis, goes to Miami with Jay Crowder and Solomon Hill in a 3-team deal. Memphis will get Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters, and Gorgie Jang, while Minnesota gets James Johnson. And the NBA's leading rebounder, Andre Drummond, he's off to Cleveland. The Pistons will receive guard Brandon Knight, forward John Henson, and a second-round pick in return. Listen to Andre Drummond late last night on the trade rumors.
I mean, the word I want to use right now probably shouldn't come out trying to get fined, but it's effort. I just say it's an effort, man. Like effort. I mean, what you gonna do? You can't fight that battle. It's not something you can change. Just keep playing, and whatever happens, whenever your time comes, it comes. If it doesn't, you're still here. But at the end of the day, you can't focus on. They got to focus on job number 1, which is being in a Piston uniform right now.
In Oakland, you said San Francisco now. You said you would prefer to remain here. Is that the way you still feel?
You would know if I changed my mind.
Would you be surprised if you did get traded, or right now do you kind of feel like you will be here after tomorrow?
Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to go to sleep tonight and wake up and find out what happened. So who knows?
Well, and then a little bit after he woke up, he got traded to Cleveland. And here's what he said on Twitter. If there's one thing I learned about the NBA, there's no friends or loyalty. I've given my heart and soul to the Pistons, and to have this happen with no heads up makes me realize even more that this is just a business. I love you, Detroit. Andre Drummond, of course, in Detroit his entire career. This is a tough move for him, Brian, but I mean, he's upset. We get it. He joins Kevin Love, another player whose name we'd heard in trade talks, but he stayed put. What is Cleveland trying to do here?
Well, they got him for a bargain basement price, Sage. We're talking about a guy who isn't just a 2-time All-Star. That's in the past. Right now, he's leading the league in rebounding, and the Cavs essentially got him for a second-round pick in 2 years. 3 years, actually.
Yeah.
So this is as bottom of the basement as you're ever going to see a star player in his prime go for. And the Cavs had $28 million in salary cap room this summer, but they didn't know who they were going to spend it on. And so even if Drummond picks up his contract option, they don't think they could have gotten a player better than Andre Drummond. So they feel comfortable with the move. The complication is they had a starting center, Tristan Thompson, who they tried to trade over the last 3 days and were unable to. And the question became in places like Boston and with the Clippers and Lakers, is it possible that Tristan would be bought out? And I am told he will not be. He will stay there even as a backup. He does not want to give up his bird rights. He thinks that could hurt him in the summer. And so that's a real big disappointing piece of news for some teams out there looking for centers.
Yeah, interesting goings on, I guess, in Cleveland, the team that's sitting in the very bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. Let's go west then, Brian. No moves by the Lakers, which surprised some people. So what's next there?
They just didn't have a lot of assets to deal with, but there is certainly not a finalized team. We have J.R. Smith, who's going to come in for a workout in the near future. And the player that they're now keeping an eye on is Darren Collison. Collison fits the bill, the type of player they wanted. They wanted a ball handler or a perimeter player. Collison is not 100% sure he's going to return from his short retirement. But if he does, he's going to want to stay in L.A., and the Lakers would be a leading candidate.
All right, that is Brian Windhorst after a very busy couple of days leading up to this afternoon's trade deadline. Brian, thank you.
Thanks, Sage.
Tonight, Joel versus Giannis, the struggling Sixers in Milwaukee. And since Philly dominated the Bucks on Christmas Day, the Sixers are 8-10. The Bucks are 16-2. Milwaukee's 43-7, and they're on pace to be the third team in NBA history to finish with 70 wins, joining the 95-96 Bulls and the 15-16 Warriors. The Sixers, they've lost the first 3 games on their current 4-game road trip, and they're 9-18 on the road this season. By far the worst among winning teams as they sit as the 6th seed in the East. After their worst loss of the season on Monday, things are not good.
There's some stuff going on in our locker room, and we'll keep that internal. We all know we need to be better. We need to step it up.
We haven't been winning. Our offense has not been good, but at the end of the day, we make the plays.
When it gets to an epidemic stage, this thing you're talking about, I'll admit that.
We still got to do our job, even if it's, not getting the ball some nights, and, you still got to go hard.
We all look at ourselves in the mirror and we see how we can be better. But ultimately, as players, we need to be better.
The group's good. And what the group isn't good with, the group fixes internally quite well and candidly. And I think the last few days, because of the Miami loss, has been interesting to say the least.
Tim Legler is back with us here now. The Sixers are coming off a 31-point loss to the Heat. Now, let's forget about all the noise off the court. Ball don't lie. What are you seeing on the court with this team right now?
Yeah, the stuff that they were talking about just now is more about fighting through adversity and chemistry. That's another issue. But just talk about from a basketball perspective, what I'm seeing. And you talk about just play design and spacing are major issues. Now, this particular set, you start off, and I don't see too many teams that are going to start off right off the bat burying your center in the corner at the three-point line. But here's what's even more mystifying. Look where these two players are spotted up at the three-point line. Why in the world, they're not utilizing the wings at all? In a second, you're going to see Shake Milton come over, but those two players never leave those spots the entire possession. So now you run action. It's two non-scorers, so there's no threat, so you get a switch. So right off the bat, Boston saying this is pretty easy to defend. You run your weak side action, which I don't have a problem with. The problem is when you run weak side action, you don't usually start that with 4 seconds left. By the time it gets to Embiid, I talked about spacing. Well, this is one of the things you run into. If you got Ben Simmons on the court, you got Thibault, who's a nice young player, it's very streaky from out there. What does it allow Boston to do? Let's get 5 guys right here around Joel Embiid, and of course it's going to lead to a turnover and a run out. And I give Embiid credit here for the hustle, man. And he really tries to run a long way, track him down. The only guy that did, by the way, nobody else gets back in the picture. Another opportunity right here. And again, a lot of stuff at the beginning. It's just to kind of get guys moving. But again, you're running a set intending on putting Joel Embiid at the three-point line right off the bat. And again, look at the two players spotted up within 5 feet of each other, which allows one to play two. So you run your action, you get it out here to the corner, and when I said one to play two, that's exactly what happens. So Marcus Smart has to bite when the ball goes to Horford, but then he's able to get back to Shake Milton and guard both guys because they're literally 6 feet away from each other. And by the way, Embiid still at the three-point line. As the ball comes back around, Kevin, swing it to Embiid. This isn't a terrible look, but I wouldn't mind right here. You got an opportunity to throw this ball right to Ben Simmons and take that thing to the rim. He's never really involved in his set after the initial handoff. Joel Embiid ends up taking the three. Like, again, not a bad look, but that's 2 possessions I showed you where he never got inside the three-point line. So they don't utilize their players, I don't think, properly for what they're good at. Their spacing is not very good. They don't have a lot of shooting, which is not great in today's NBA. But those are 2 small microcosms, right, from a game against Boston that they lost. We know what happened in Miami. Not any better tonight in Milwaukee. We know how bad they've been on the road. You're playing the best team in the league. It could get ugly.
What's stunning is this is happening in February. This is the stuff you see in October.
And I don't
like
like those comments about the locker room. That's very unhealthy.
Not
situation.
good. Sixers will look to avoid their 4th straight loss tonight if they face the Bucks. Good luck. Legs, thank you.
Thanks.
And reminding you, we've got more Raptors the way they've been playing, looking to extend their win streak to 13 when they take on the Pacers. And Sage will be cheering loud. Then Damian Lillard. We're both cheering for this guy. And the Blazers taking on the Jazz. Our coverage begins. NBA Countdown, 7 tomorrow night on ESPN and the ESPN app.
Daniel Cormier was undefeated. Ryan Bader was undefeated.
Jones chokes out Ryan Bader.
You're not special, Dominic.
I'm the one. I promise you.
And counting till UFC 247 kicks off in Houston, Texas, featuring John Jones as he tries to defend his light heavyweight title. His opponent, Dominic Reyes, who's got his work cut out for him against Jones, who's unbeaten. John Jones in his last 17 fights, the longest streak ever in UFC. Bones has won 13 title fights, currently tied with Georges St. Pierre for the most in UFC history. Jones spoke yesterday and explained why he chose this fight.
I picked Dominic Reyes because, I think he was the toughest guy out there. And right now I'm trying to be the best ever. And I know in order to be the best ever, I got to compete against everyone. I just wanted to fight Dominic now while he's hot and while I'm hot. I think that's what the fans deserve to see. He's knocking people out left and right. And I put an end to that on Saturday.
He's ready to go and I'm ready to go. I feel like I bother him. I feel like he created ways to not like me. To me, it doesn't matter if he likes me or not, or he's angry or not. I think it's funny.
Love the mental games in this sport. MMA insider Ariel Helwani joins us live on SportsCenter from Las Vegas. Ariel, plain and simple, what's at stake if Jon Jones does win this fight?
Well, the obvious one, as you just mentioned, is history, because if he wins this fight, it'll be his 14th victory in a UFC title fight. No one's ever done that before. But more importantly for Jon Jones is, at some point this year, he wants to move up to heavyweight. He fights at light heavyweight, 205, and he recognizes in order to be considered one of the greatest ever, if not the greatest ever, he needs to test himself at heavyweight. And he is eyeing a fight against the current heavyweight champion, Stipe Miocic. So if he wins on Saturday, certainly opens the door a little more. I think he'll fight one more time at 205, and then by the end of the year, eye a heavyweight fight, a potential heavyweight title fight at Madison Square Garden. He is a native of New York. He's from Endicott, New York, so fighting at MSG has always been something that he wanted to do, and the timing would work out perfectly because the UFC is currently scheduled to go to MSG in late November.
All right, so the countdown is on to Saturday. Jon Jones, again, ranked as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in all of the UFC. Ariel Helwani with the latest. Thank you. So it's 2:47.